Well, I don't really know where I am. I have come to a couple of small ponds or lakes on my membership water that I've never been to before, so let's see what's at the end of this path. Some nice old oak tree by the look of it. I really don't know what's at the end of this path. I hope I don't get stuck. Let's have a closer look. I like the look of this. Just put me stumpy little wellies on that make my legs look extra stumpy too. And let's go and look at this lake. When does a pond become a lake? Would you call this a lake? Because it's almost big enough to be a lake, but it could be a pond. I'm talking gibberish again. I don't know what's going on over there. There's two floating things. Look like Chinese New Year things. Okay, so that's that pond we just saw. Second pond. Down this path. Whoa, a bit slippery. And this is also small enough to call a pond. And I don't even understand how this Chinese lantern is floating in midair. Must be on a wire across the lake or something. Why would they be there? Hang on, there's a wire here between the two lakes as well. You see that? Running. I don't know what's going on. So on this session I'm just going to do some float fishing. Just grab my float fishing box with my small hooks and stuff. And I almost had a disaster. I was in the car just about to pull out the driveway when I realised I had no split shot for my float. So if I didn't go back in and get me split shot, this would have been a nightmare of a day. We have some luncheon meat. And in the car I've got a bucket of squid scopex pellets and boilies, but as we're float fishing, it's going to be luncheon meat today. I'm not going tiny, so let's go with a size 12. I still get a bit of luncheon meat on there because there's some carp in here that probably might be £6 or so. I don't know how big they go in here, it's a bit of guesswork, but I think the carp might be fairly good size, especially on float gear. And I'm tying the hook on. Normally do a half blood knot, is it called? But this time, bit of moisture, I'm doing it with a Palomar, because Palomars are so strong. I use it for most of my fishing when I'm making carp rigs. Sometimes when you use a blood knot and you pull the knot tight, you end up with this part kinking, going in a bit of a curl. Don't know if you've had that yourself with a blood knot, but Palomar, you keep the line fairly straight. I haven't float fished for so long. Oh, it's brilliant. Right, I just saw a little ripple on top of the water. Oh, and again, tiny fish, tiny fish. I'll tell you what I just did see. I'll tell you who I just spoke to. A woman was walking around the lake, just keeping an eye on things. She's not a fisher woman, but she just is a member of the lakes. She said about these, what I thought was Chinese lanterns floating in the air. They're actually to keep the cormorants away. So I think they've got a cormorant problem on these couple of ponds, eating the fish and such. So that's what they are. Well, I've had these just probably a couple of years in my fishing shed indoors as well. This one's got a pull top. This one is the thing that you twist around the outside, but the twisty thing's missing. So how am I going to get into this one? So I brought my carp bucket along. Got some mini boilies, some 20mm boilies, all Scopex squid. And handfuls of pellets. So let's chuck some pellets out. I've got no idea about the depth even, so I'm just going to have to plumb the depth with my float and figure out how deep I need to fish. What I think I'm going to do, you get these things, look, they clip on your hook, and so you can plumb the depths so you know if you're fishing deep enough. If the float dips under, then slide your shot up a bit to make it even deeper until you see your float appear at the surface. That's if you want to fish a bottom bait, or whether you want to fish your bait just off the bottom, whichever way you want to fish it. But I need to plumb the depth just to make sure I'm fishing correctly. So I've gone about 5 foot deep and I can see my float now, so that should mean my hook bait will be just sitting on the bottom, just perfect. There's a fella turned up 10 minutes ago and he's just cast straight over to the luncheon fish over the back. How very dare you! Well, the sun is breaking through the clouds slightly. I just came and sat in this swim because it was the nearest to the car. But now I've settled, got things set up. Saw the fish lunk over the back, and I've seen some rushes, and it looks like lily pads that are dying off. So there's a very good chance I'll be moving to somewhere over there soon, especially if I get no bites. I actually just had my first little bite. The float dipped down and come up again, so there's fish there. Let's see. Well, I've just moved swims, come round closer to these lily pads. Just before that I was chatting to the other fellow that turned up, and he's just had a take. He's got his carp rods out with boilies, so he's got a carp on, I'm guessing. Doesn't look massive, but that's a fish. They are biting. Over in this swim, I've just noticed down there there's an outlet for water that flows down into the lower lake, so that's good. I always like to fish. If you can fish near an aerator or an outlet, fish tend to be attracted to it. So, and also up to the lily pads can only be a good thing. Alright, not much is happening. In fact, even less than that first swim I was in. In that other swim I did have a couple of little bites, but probably roach, so wouldn't mind a roach, but I don't really much prefer a carp or a tempt. It's hard to know what to do in these winter months. It's the 30th of December today, so almost at the end of the year. The water's been cold for a good while, so the fish are going to be less active, less interested in feeding. But you never know. It's not the height of winter yet. It's still, today is like 10 degrees, so it's not proper winter. So it's not freezing. And there's still a chance. Oh, bloody hell. Get off. I just had a fish on and then I got snagged. It pulled off. I actually had a proper bite with a real fish on my line. So here we are on the other lake. Water's a different colour, which is quite strange. It's quite muddy, clay kind of looking water. I've already thrown bait down in that corner and along this margin, so I'm going to fish this margin to start with, see if anything happens. I can always have a go into my other baited area, and also I may be able to reach the island with the float. If not, I'll have to go the next swim down just to be able to get the cast. So let's see what happens on this lake. We must catch a winter carp. Oh no, here comes the rain, just to add insult to injury. No fish, and it's freezing cold. Now it's going to rain on me. Thanks. Let's get the brolly out of the car quick. Right, this is turning into a competition of how many swims I can fish in one day. I'm in my fourth swim. The rain got heavy, so I'm glad I ran to the car and got my brolly. You can see under the brolly, my tiny brolly, smallest brolly in the world, but just about squeeze under it without getting wet. But what I need to do to give myself a chance is get some bait out to that island. Luckily I've got pellets and boilies that can go a fair distance with my catapult, and that island's not far away, so let's get some bait out there. Can you see my float? There. The float is about 3 or 4 foot off the island. I might try and get it a little bit closer when this rain eases off a touch. I must get a bigger umbrella. The smallest fishing umbrella in the world. It's quite good for keeping the sun off you on a hot day, but when you're trying to get all your gear beneath it to stay dry, it's not the best brolly at all. I actually had a bite. That's the problem. When you're float fishing and you've not had a bite for an hour, you're kind of not expecting a bite, and then when it happens you miss it. Blech. Right, swim number 5. Back to where it all started, when I was fishing that first swim near the car, and I saw the fish lunking here. The fella who set up caught one casting out to this bank, so it only makes sense that we come back to where we started. The fish were lunking here earlier and the fella caught one, so this is where I'm going to plot up until the end of the day, and we've even got a lovely bit of sunshine to finish off the day. Is that, you probably can't see through the lens, but it looks like a load of feeding bubbles out of there. Might have to keep an eye on that. It's quite a pleasant little lake actually. Imagine in the summertime. I've heard that you can get them off the surface, these mirror and common carp. There's the odd tench. Lots of roach and stuff, which can be a pain if you're using maggots or something like that, smaller baits. So I'll definitely be coming back for a session with my carp rods. Apparently the carp do go into double figures, and that's what I was hoping to hook on this light tackle today on the float rod. So it would be brilliant action if I can hook a carp. But equally, even a 10-pounder on my carp rods can put up quite a battle. So look out for a video where I'm down here in the summer when these pads have grown back and the rushes are fully out and green and in bloom, and almost feels a little bit summer-like actually with that sunshine on me. It's amazingly warm for the 29th of December. One fish will make this video. Come on the carp. I actually just had a little bite. That's a good sign. Even if it is roach moving in, it could attract some bigger fish. Come on, dip under. Dip under. Oh, bloody hell! Excuse the language. That was pulling the drag out on my rod. Oh, gutted. Rah! Can't believe that. Oh, first bit of hot pumping action. Hooked a fish. It was a very slow, gradual bite. Hooked it, pulling drag out. I press record on the camera and the hook pulled. I'm using barbless hooks, so it's always going to happen now and then, but not when you've hooked your first fish and it felt like a carp. Right, floats back out there. Even though I've just lost a fish, it's a sign that I've made the right move in moving swim for the 5th time, and I'm in the right spot because I've just hooked a fish. So let's see. There's every chance I'm going to get another bite. I really didn't expect to hook a fish that would tear off and start taking line, like pulling drag. The float was moving, tiny little bites, and I just thought roach playing around with the luncheon meat, and it just slipped away, struck into it, and it was like, whoa, that's a proper fish. So come on, let's get another one. My float is there. I've just had a couple of little knocks on the float, so hopefully you can see it through the lens. Just there, the little orange tip. Come on, this is what happened last time. I had a couple of little knocks before I had the proper bite. Well, that was unbelievable. I've got a fish on. I had a couple of tugs, and you can see this could be a little carp, hopefully. Fingers crossed, I'll keep it on. It's tugging away like a small carp. Could even be a tench, but feels a bit weighty to be a tench. I'm going to concentrate on landing this fish, okay? Let's dip the camera so I can try and film it for you. That looked really dark. Could be a tench. It's a little mirror carp. Look at that beauty. I'm so happy just to get one little winter carp on a float rod. It's only £3 maybe, but look at that. He's a little beauty. Come on then. Thank you, little carp. See ya when you're bigger. Right, the float is back out there. Another little sprinkling of pellets around it with my luncheon meat hook bait. The one I lost before that definitely felt like it had more power, like it was a bigger fish. That was probably only £3, so let's see if we can get another one, and let's hopefully see a bigger fish on the bank. Well, my float just dipped down again. That tends to be the sign that there could be something sitting on it, because last time my float dipped, didn't actually go under or stay under, and I lifted up the rod just to check, and there was a fish on it, so it was quite lucky that I hooked that fish that I just caught. Anyway, there was a little sign of other fish there just then, so well, I just reeled in to check again, and my hook bait was gone. So another bit of luncheon. Let's get out there. About there seems to be where I've been having the bites, so let's continue. Oh, my float just went under completely then, but by the time I picked up the rod it was back up, so let's give it a second. Hopefully it goes again. It's quite easy for the fish to steal luncheon meat off the hook because it's so soft. I'm going to keep my rod in my hand because those quick little bites, by the time I reach across to pick up my rod when it's on the rod rest, the float's kind of coming back up and I've missed the opportunity. So I'm going to keep my rod in my hand, ready for any little bites. Float's back out there. I just missed a bite. It was a clean under bite. The float didn't come back up, so I struck it expecting to feel a little touch, expecting to feel the weight of a fish because the float hadn't come back up, and nothing. So a bit of a weird one. Well, I just reeled in and my bait was gone, so that's a good sign. Fish are feeding. Let's see if we can get another bite. Well folks, it's getting pretty chilly. It's less than an hour away before it's going to be dark, so I need some drastic carp action. The roach have moved in. I've been putting a bit of extra bait out there, and the roach are quite happily nibbling away on the luncheon meat. And I thought that's what was happening earlier, but the carp appeared, so you never know, there could be carp amongst them. About another 30 minutes to go before I have to pack up, and it is getting cold. I think that's about it. We're not far away from darkness. So that wasn't too bad. Shame I lost that bigger fish, but at least I had one winter carp on luncheon meat on float. I really wasn't expecting too much. My fishing buddy Dan, he was down at Hartley Lands today on Pear Tree Lake, and as far as I know he's blanked. So just to nick one little carp today is good enough, especially for a winter session. Right, thanks for watching. It's time to head home, jump in the motor and try and warm up. See you in the next one.